I think there's a natural jealousy and dislike that they've had toward Robin.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like this video. The Coyote Pass property was finally sold by Sister Wives' stars, Kody, Robin, Janelle, and Mary, for a whopping $1.55 million. The ride to get there was far from smooth, with years of to and fro and fiery arguments over splitting the land. At one point, after Mary threatened legal action if Kody didn't cooperate, he ultimately agreed to split the property evenly. Now that the sale has gone through, how did they choose to split the proceeds among themselves? Back in 2018, the Brown family purchased 4 lots of land in Flagstaff, Arizona, spending a total of $820,000. The goal was for each wife to live on the same property, but in separate homes. The Coyote Pass property is over 2.42 acres in size. It took long negotiations, haggling, and some heated arguments before the Browns were able to agree on a way to split the money. But arriving at that point wasn't easy. Stay tuned for all the details. After his 3 wives divorced him, Kody regretted having opted for polygamy. When the show started, he had 3 wives and eventually adopted Robin as his 4th wife. Although all was not well, the family did stay together until the pandemic. That's when everything fell apart. His first 3 wives, Mary, Janelle, and Christine, eventually walked out. Kody later admitted that he felt polygamy had backfired on him. Then, with Robin alone with him, he asked her on Valentine's Day if she was fine with how things went. Robin, devastated because the family had fallen apart, confessed that she could do nothing else but agree. So, how did Kody, Robin, Mary, and Janelle split the profits from Coyote Pass? Readers of Sister Wives can be sure that handling Kody Brown is not a cakewalk. In order to receive their half of the property, Mary and Janelle needed to join forces and fight back hard. After much upheaval and threats, Kody finally divided the land into 4 equal shares. Property records indicate that on April 14th, Kody and Robin sold their half of the 2.42-acre parcel for $35,000. Meanwhile, Mary and Janelle kept the other 50%. Later that day, the couple sold another third of the property for $400,000. Mary and Janelle each owned a 25%, while Kody and Robin owned 50%. The last part of the property, which the Browns sold for $490,000, was split equally as well. Kody and Robin jointly owning half, and Mary and Janelle each owning a quarter. All 4 of them, Kody, Robin, Janelle, and Mary, ended up taking $375,000 each, according to the final sale. The buyers were a couple from Scottsdale, Arizona, according to the warranty deed acquired by the son, who bought the property outright with an all-cash $1.5 million down payment. Christine didn't get a penny, though. Kody and Robin had already purchased her half for only $10. On March 27th, Kody sold the 3rd piece of property to Mary and Janelle, but the last piece was still in his and Robin's names. He plotted the lots such that each one had an equal share. Now that the property is sold, Janelle and Mary are out of any other obligations to Robin and Kody. Janelle is encountering a roadblock in her Tata Farms aspiration as well. Since breaking up with Kody, she's been busy rebuilding her life. Though they were together for more than 20 years, Janelle never felt completely satisfied. Now she's laying down new roots in North Carolina, where she's begun building her dream house. While living with Kody, she never had a home of her own, so this milestone is all the more significant. She's currently living with her daughter Maddie and Maddie's husband and building her own farm business, Tata Farms. Maddie has assisted her along the way. This is the first time Janelle is completely in charge of both her home and her business. On Instagram, she's posted that she's never been freer. However, she recently encountered a significant setback. Back to Coyote Pass history. Kody earned $1.5 million from the complete property sale. The property, more than 2.42 acres, was sold to a Scottsdale couple who paid in cash. All four stages of the sale were priced at $35,000. The complete deal was sealed on April 14th, with all the parties, Kody, Robin, Janelle, and Mary, gaining $375,000 each. That sale formally severed Janelle and Mary from Kody and Robin. In spite of odds, Janelle is still progressing toward fulfilling the life of her dreams. The Coyote Pass sale turned out to be a big win for the Brown family, keeping in mind how it all initially began with aspirations to build an enormous home with everyone staying there together back in 2018. When the scheme fell apart, the wives started walking away. For years, Mary and Janelle have been attempting to have Kody turn over their portion of the land. It wasn't easy going. Mary threatened to call in lawyers if Kody wouldn't voluntarily give them their share. Finally, after much haggling, he split the property into 4 shares. Despite all the upheaval, the family reaped an incredible profit from the sale recently. Robin, Mary, and Janelle divided the property 50-50. It was only just recently that Janelle reported she's having her dream home built in North Carolina. She shared on social media a video of her property, announcing the land has been staked out, an early but necessary move prior to construction commencing. Janelle further shared that the dream she'd had for so long is finally becoming a reality. She hopes the house will be finished by the holiday season. But she hit a huge surprise setback. At Tata Farms, she envisioned a green zone but encountered a problem with a coastal North Carolina permit. Now, the big garden she envisioned is being moved to the backyard. In spite of the setback, the TV personality is forging ahead, shifting her plans and not giving up on her vision. Long ago, a common dream existed in Flagstaff desert land, a belief in multiple love multiplied, and a heritage that would span over several hearts and homes. Coyote Pass was to be one of those things that would bring unity. However, it has turned out to be a platform for shattered promises and hurtful realizations. The same piece of land that was meant to unite them has now been let go, the last piece of paper signed. This conclusion wasn't achieved in peace. It arrived wrapped in betrayal, sorrow, threat of legal action, and the haunting reminders of love that no longer existed as it once had. Here is the tale of how the final shard of that vision was sold, and the actual price paid by those who at one time said they were family. The foundation of the dream was laid in harmony, common purpose, and a passion to create a future together. Years before, as the family stood before the open horizon of Coyote Pass, each wife envisioned her own home rising, one designed to mirror her privacy yet remain part of the family's heart. The land stood for more than just a financial investment. It was a promise, a monument to a bold life very few dared to live. As they once walked its boundaries, they didn't just see dirt. They saw a future, holidays spent under one sky, children running freely between homes, a connection to the land that tied back to their spiritual values. But, as with so many things in the family, that dream began to crumble under the pressures of reality. Where love once kept them united, threats of lawsuits began to take its place. The delicate harmony did not last. As the years went by, debates about the land grew more and more strained. Rather than cooperation, the land started to brew discord. As their ties weakened, what once symbolized hope became a cause of strife. Those who were left behind, particularly the women estranged from their spiritual leader, had trouble seeking clarity and justice amidst the confusion. A breaking point finally arrived. One of the wives, no longer willing to be silenced or pushed aside, threatened to call in legal assistance, and for the first time, her threat wasn't dismissed as a bluff. Kody knew she was serious. That's when the vision of Coyote Pass changed from spiritual haven to legal battleground. After endless disputes and hard-won arguments, they came to a decision. The land was to be divided equally, not out of guilt, not out of promises made before, not even out of taste. Only equality would be able to bring them peace. Years passed before coming to that resolution. Kody, so strong in his desires to own it all, stood now and simply watched as the dream he held so close was shattered. He signed over his portion to Robin. Mary and Janelle, each bearing their own scars from rejection and loss, also signed off. What they were signing wasn't merely a property transaction, it was closure. The last sale didn't go to relatives or anyone who was a part of the heritage lost in the earth. The purchasers, a man and a woman, knew nothing of the emotional burden, nothing about what was lost to achieve this. In that, it was appropriate. The family once destined to remain united had finally, and quietly, let go. As the land was taken over by strangers, the Browns yielded it not in gladness, but through the weariness of individuals who had clung too long to that which could no longer peace them. The release did not arrive with feasts, but restored to each one a return of personal liberty. With a gentle reversal of authority, where conquest did not serve to impress anymore, the subtle trades occurred in the periphery. One parcel went from hand to hand in search of closure. Another was shared jointly, perhaps from habit or unrequited emotions. On the surface, it was logistics. Below it, unspoken. The erstwhile head of the family, the hub of all decisions once, had lost not just land, but influence, relevance, and purpose. He now stood outside the lives of three women who once orbited around him. With every contract inked, every step taken, the women who had once been part of his world now forged their own. The chapter on shared leadership had closed unobtrusively. When the final documents were signed, the patriarch, replete with doubts, expressed regret, not publicly, but in subdued, tentative voices. What was once divinely guided now became a haunting blunder. He even inquired of his lone partner whether she was really okay, but silence was her most direct response. They once were part of a sprawling, colorful, interwoven family. Now it was just the two of them, tied together not through plenty, but through scarcity. The family they had created together was gone. For the women, the benefits were never strictly monetary. Cutting up the land was about so much more than money. It was long overdue recognition of their efforts, their hardships, and their voices, too often silenced. At long last, they walked away with what was rightfully theirs, not only as payment, but as evidence. They were independent. They could start anew, without depending on a system that had let them down. For the first wife, the exit was an emotional one. She had transitioned from cherished partner to silent stranger, her transformation all but invisible, yet profound. This last sale provided her with something she had not enjoyed in years: peace. And yet, for another, the time had come after such a long waiting. She had always envisioned dedicating her share to investing in her children, building a company, and inheriting a name of her own, not a dual one. There was also Christine, whose sudden death had triggered the unraveling to begin. She sold her stake for a symbolic sum, not because it was worthless, but because in her mind it no longer mattered. Her departure didn't make her rich, but it granted her something much more valuable: peace of mind. She was the first to let go not only the property, but the myth that bound them all. Under the same Arizona sun where they formerly had shot, made promises, and spoken out loud, the land grew heavy. What had begun as hope was now resentment. The dream fermented. The arguments grew worse, and the land itself, a former promise of togetherness, became a source of pain regarding what they had lost. Letting go wasn't about profit, it was about liberty. Now, with the last auction behind them, each woman is forging a new course. Some have moved elsewhere in the country. opting for healing rather than proximity to the past. Others are creating businesses, establishing new traditions, and being surrounded by people who recognize their value. Even those who were left behind get it. The world they knew is gone. They might still recall it, but it's no longer theirs. As a new chapter unfolds, something surprising has risen from the ashes: clarity, not because they failed, but because they grew. Every individual who was once the center of that spiritual endeavor now stands by themselves, harder, freer. Traversing heartbreak, fragmentation, and abandonment brought not defeat, but liberation. And that, in the end, is Coyote Pass's real legacy. It was more than land, it was a lesson. One of those voices, Janelle Brown, now emerges. She's rebuilding on her own terms, beginning a chapter grounded in selfhood, family, and long overdue peace. Having endured more than 25 years in a spiritual partnership that grew steadily one-sided, she's moved on from having to cling to a dream she no longer shared. Janelle has stepped into the life she was born to live. After years of giving up her mental health and autonomy for a polyamorous family that never loved her for who she was, Janelle is now emerging into the light of her own destiny. Having relocated to North Carolina to be near her daughter Maddie, Maddie's husband Caleb, and their expanding family, her new life is finally beginning to take shape. Janelle had lived for many years in a life where she never really felt home, holdings on forever to the transitory hope of a family homestead at Coyote Pass in Flagstaff. She lived in temporary arrangements, from shared apartments to leased RVs. But as Kody's relationships with his wives grew weaker, first emotionally, then legally, that vision gradually unraveled. What had begun as a vision of sharing houses on a single property evolved into suspicion, resentment, and painful disconnection. Today, Janelle is redefining the dream, but this time on her own terms. In an emotional video posted on social media, Janelle traversed a plot of undeveloped land in North Carolina that she now owns. Her voice shook with emotion as she spoke to her followers. Trembling, fighting back tears, she said, "It's finally happening." It was the start of something she never believed she could do for herself. Surveyors are in the process of preparing the ground for building, marking out plots, putting down both physical and emotional groundwork for a life she's never had the opportunity to create on her own terms. For Janelle, this chapter has been liberating. For the first time in her adult life, she's making decisions free of the patriarchal marriage. She is now the designer of her own home, her own business, and her own happiness. Janelle is hoping the house will be finished by the holidays, symbolically significant, given how many previous holidays she spent feeling alone in a broken plural family. This time, she wants to celebrate in love, in a home of her own. Tata Farms, From Vision to Reality. In addition to her own self-transformation, Janelle is busy establishing something enduring: Tata Farms. It is not just a farm, it is an intimately symbolic endeavor, her first giant step toward becoming a business owner. Tata Farms is one of independence. Her vision is to transform the property into an operational farm and homestead with animals, gardens, and later a self-supported enterprise. With the assistance of her daughter Maddie, Janelle has already begun building the heart of the farm. They've sketched out plans, laid out garden designs, and hashed out ideas for future endeavors such as greenhouses, workshops for education, and chickens. But dreams, particularly those planted firmly in the earth, accompany their share of disappointments. One of them was a permitting problem along the coast of North Carolina. The original plan included a big garden space at the front of the property, with lines of vegetables and herbs running along the entrance, a colorful testament to her independent nature. But local officials warned the garden as encroaching on protected ground, needing special environmental permits that were never approved. Nevertheless, Janelle did what she does best. She improvised. In a recent update, she wrote, "The garden is now going in the back. It's not what I envisioned, but that's life. You roll with it, and it still looks beautiful." Her resilience and adaptability when faced with disappointment touched her followers, who look up to her as an embodiment of strength and determination. Coyote Pass, closing the chapter. Yet another driving force behind Janelle's change is the closure of the Coyote Pass chapter. In 2018, the Brown family sunk $820,000 into a 2.42-acre lot in Flagstaff, dreaming of a cohesive, multi-generational homestead. But after years of turmoil within, betrayals, and abandoned building projects, the property was a bittersweet reminder of what might have been. Now, Coyote Pass property is gone for a whopping $1.5 million cash. It was divided into 4 lots and was purchased by a Scottsdale, Arizona couple. Not merely a money deal, the sale represented emotional freedom for the women previously bound to Kody through this property. Every individual, Kody, Robin, Janelle, and Mary, all got $375,000 from the sale, as property records and warranty deeds obtained by the son proved. Although that may sound like a tidy and straightforward divide on paper, the route to arriving there was far from smooth sailing. Mary needed to threaten a lawsuit, telling Kody that she would involve lawyers and possibly the police, whether or not the property was split equally. Janelle was beside her every step of the way, refusing to be cast aside once again. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more daily updates. See you soon.